Do you ever accidentally see a discounted doll online and accidentally create a whole dramatic character and backstory around that doll? And next thing you know, that makes you want to get the doll, and now you have a whole doll that you want to customize based off of the character that you came up with within 15 minutes? Yeah, so that happened here. Hi. So, this is our cute little victim today. And yeah, that happened. Essentially, like, I don't know, something reminded me that creatable world dolls do in fact exist. And then I go online and I see this little one here for what was it, $13? Which it was the deluxe thing, so it was a huge bargain. I got this one here, and I got a bunch of clothes and stuff. So yeah, all that for 13 bucks. You can't get crap for 13 bucks nowadays, seriously. Anyways, so yeah, we are turning a doll into a character made after that doll today. I don't know when this video is going to be put out. I'm recording this in the beginning of August, but honestly, you may not be seeing this until September, October, hopefully sometime in the year of our Lord wanting to kill us, 2022. But yeah, whenever you're seeing this, I am going to be in college, so yeah, I'm pre-recording this whole thing. Welcome to the backlog. I mean, this is kind of pretty much the only thing on the backlog, but yeah. Anyways, we got a victim to work on. Let's go.
I've heard a lot of people say that it's really hard to wipe the face off of a creatable world doll. And who boy, they were right. As previously mentioned, this doll is being made into an original character of mine, and trust me, I've got a lot of lore on this one. So while I scrap my life away over here, you can enjoy a little bit of backstory on our friend here. Feel free to skip to this timestamp if you're genuinely not interested, but warning, you'll be missing out on a lot of storytelling and really cool illustrations. Mama never wanted me to join the guard. She said that everything else was the crown's property, and her firstborn child didn't need to be too. It was obvious, though, even when I was younger, that something had to give. I discreetly skipped some meals, just so my younger siblings could have enough to eat. The family farm was failing. Most of what lasted to harvest we were required by law to give to the crown for redistribution. Bigger farms and families had no troubles with this, but it was obvious that Mama and Papa could feed all of us. Lots of kids around my age were already pledging themselves to serving the royal family of Domino. It honestly seemed like a relatively good position, all things considered. They learned how to fight, they were fed so they'd be big and strong. They seemed to have a life rivaled only by the top of the food chain. I figured I would be a good soldier. I knew how to swing an axe, while other Dominonian children were barely learning how to tend a field. Against my parents' wishes, I signed on. My next several months were rather intense. I suppose that was a decent starting point for the training, but the guard demanded so much more. Striking hard, striking with accuracy, was a must. I spent most of my waking hours sprinting, sparring, and strength training. It was harder in many ways, in a different way than my old life was. But as payment, I had a stable roof over my head, and all my needs were taken care of. All seemed good for a while. I should have known that something was brewing, though, when my training abruptly stopped, much sooner than intended. We had all known of the disappearance of the Princess of Domino, the heir to the royal throne, only a few days prior. Suddenly, me and my other squires were being thrust into service, not yet completely prepared. Most of my fellow squires were positioned to guard the market circle. Once, it was a hub of activity in the kingdom, where many met and countless goods were exchanged between countless hands. Now, no one was allowed in, as per the crown's order. Along with a couple others, I was called to guard a place called Prison Pier. It too was once a hub of activity, but had been abandoned much longer ago. Once it was a bridge between our world and something much greater. I never had any purpose being there, so I never knew much beyond that. All I knew was that the pier was beyond a rift, an unstable tear in the walls of our world. Rifts always acted like a window, letting us peer into some sort of wild outer cosmos. Occasionally, they would open, letting people pass through as they pleased. The rift of Prison Pier was behind a cascade of vines and other plants, but still towered over the land, and in the daytime, a powerful shine lit up our mesa country from behind the plant life. It was overpowering, though, being only mere inches away from the gargantuan rift. When I looked up at it from this close, my head hurt. We were ordered to wear rift spectacles, which went over our eyes and dimmed the outside's blinding rays and made our duty much easier. We were also to pass these out to the handful of characters who were permitted to pass through the rift when it opened. Among the strange faces that passed through were two women. The elder of the two radiated a cold demeanor. I could feel death in her eyes. She looked as if she was dying for something to fall out of line, just so she could personally whip it back into place. The younger of the two opted to keep her face and figure mostly obscured. She rarely spoke, aside from a hushed protest of the elder. A few times, the two erupted into fights while waiting for the rift to open, only arm's length from me. The elder once berated me for being too young to be a soldier, and that the crowd needed better protection for the asset. It wouldn't be for several months that I would know exactly what that asset was. At first, I didn't have a clear picture of what it was amongst all the chaos, but on what some people called the last Sunday, a large metal craft was transported from the market circle to Prison Pier, but I wasn't there to grant the structure entrance through the rift. The last Sunday was the day that things really gave. Furious species, a large, ever-hungry rodent, wiped out the land. Food supplies were destroyed, peoples and their homes were consumed too. This was the day that Domino fell. Breaking from command, I ran back to Mama and Papa's farm, but found nobody. The only sign that someone might have been there were the tools abandoned in the field. I grabbed my axe and raced towards the pier. I came back to see the strange assembly pass through the rift. The barrier had already closed, yet I was still able to peer out the other side to see familiar, high-profile faces waiting on the pier to board the vessel. It was an interesting sight, seeing nobles previously granted admission, sitting on a space pier, waiting to pile into an iron life raft to escape a sinking ship of a planet. I, too, sought escape as rabid beasts rapidly ate up the countryside. It would take a while for the rift to Prison Pier to reopen. I waited every second, out of sheer terror, and once I did, I ran out into what I thought would be objective safety. Instead, it was empty. Some supplies had been left behind on the pier, but aside from that, its stone floors were barren. No vessel, nothing but the sky and the gigantic, tendril-like grass beyond the pier. The rift never reopened, and I thought I was stuck. Eventually, after all supplies were exhausted, I found my way off the pier. I waded into the tendrils, as it was my only chance at survival. The world beyond the rift was a strange one. It was lively, yet overpowering, as if my very being was too weak, not meant to be there. The daylight blinded me, and in the night I could just barely see. The heat of the summer days scorched my skin, and the eventual winters were each like an ice age. Somehow, though, I managed to last through every single one of them. When the winters would get too harsh, I would sometimes come back to Domino. It was a much more treacherous route, but if I did enough climbing, I could re-enter through the rift of the Hanging City. Returning was not something I looked forward to, but it was a necessity against a frozen death. The world was barren, but at least it was warm, a better hiding spot than anywhere in the wild. When the wild was warmer, though, it was a bit more of a forgiving territory. Definitely an interesting one. I think the rodents originated from this place, but here they're at the bottom of the food chain. Above them were some rather large felines. As large as they were quiet, quick, and agile hunters. I was their prey a few times. They are very cruel adversaries. But even still, I've learned from that which wished to kill me. I adopted some of their techniques. The rodents were their food, but if I was quick enough, they could also be mine. This world is different from the one I grew up in. Both are ruthless, though in different ways. This one's more lonely, yet somehow much more invigorating. The outer wild is a cruel territory of extremes, but somehow I survived, adapted, and I think I've even come to thrive.
Oh,
Okay, finally done. We're gonna set aside our friend here for now and work on their outfit. Now, if you're following me on Instagram, you might recognize this concept art. Yes, this is Iris, and yes, we are making them today. Thankfully, we won't have much sewing today, since we already made their shorts. Now, we need to make their cloak. I cut 2 panels, one that is 2 1/4 by 7 inches, and another that is 3 by 7.5 inches. I finished one of the long sides of the smaller panel with some thread, and do the same with both of the shorter sides of the larger panel. Now we're going to take our smaller panel, fold it in half, and sew together the side opposite of the finished side. Next, we're going to attach our 2 panels together inside out using a straight stitch. Now we're going to reinforce it with another stitch. I generally secure things with a blanket stitch, but that's because I only know 2 stitches, like genuinely. It works alright, but if you have something else secure you can do, go ahead. Then we sew on a hook and eye on the sides where the hood meets the cape. And now we got a little cloak. I cut up the bottom a little bit to add some detail, make it look like it's been through some stuff, you know? Much better. Now, onto some supplies a universe-hopping Ex-Squire would need. I made another backpack, just like the one I made for my paramilitary equipment video. Only difference in this one is the fabric choice, and I left off a lot of details, just making a bare bones backpack here. Real quick, Iris needs her hand axe. I made this one pretty easy, first staining a toothpick with the color I want for the handle. Now we're going to make a little triangle-ish shape around the top of the handle. After 24 hours of curing, I sand the axe a bit, both to smooth out any fingerprints and to also make the axe look sharper. I also decided that Iris needed a little grappling hook, since being a tiny doll in a huge environment makes it hard to get around. So, they're going to be made with pines.
Grappling hook!
In order to make one real quick, I start out by braiding together 3 long pieces of embroidery thread to be a sort of rope. Now we're going to take 2 pieces of craft wire and twist them together. We're going to take the ends of both wires and curl them around to make a secure little loop. On the opposite side, we're going to have each of our wires curling out into hook shapes going opposite directions from each other. I also add some tape in the middle, both to make this thing look cleaner and to reduce the risk of getting poked by wires while handling it. Then we just thread our braids through the loops and tie it off. I made a couple of other things to go in the backpack, like a glass for water and a jar for food. Oh, and here we got some blackberries. Actually, they're just beads tied together, but it's not like there's a difference, right? Now, for the most daunting part that I've been low-key putting off, the face. I left the eyebrows on, both because scrubbing off the rest of the face took enough time, and to be honest, I feel like these ones suit Iris. In the concept art, their eyebrows are covered by their hair, so I didn't have anything specific in mind, but I think these ones work well. Starting off strong, I kinda made a mistake on the first layer. I mixed up where I wanted to put the black on the eyes. Their eyes were supposed to be black with white iris, but I screwed that up just a little, but I was able to fix that on the next layer. Before fixing though, I added some scratches and other scars onto the body. In the concept art, Iris has a lot of scratches and even a bite mark on their torso. I imagine them basically as a teeny tiny doll living in the rough environment around my house, and well, there's a lot of strays in our little woodsy, very unkept neighborhood. One of them maybe considered Iris an oversized mouse at some point. It's because of this that they aren't so much of a fan of cats in general, both ones that are and aren't their size. After another layer of sealant, I fix up Iris's irises, defining both them and the darker background of their eyes. I also added a bit of a red tint to the scratches and the bite marks. I tried to build up the eyes for a couple more layers and finally decided that I needed to switch to paint in order to get the opacity I was looking for. It took some trial, some error, and delicately painting and repainting, but I eventually ended up with this. After recording this entire video, I looked at this face up a lot and I liked it, but I knew it needed a little something else. I eventually did add that something, which you'll be able to see at the very end after the outro. For now though, it's time to put our tiny friend together.
Oh my gosh. Just look at this kid here and tell me they're not amazing. I dare you. This isn't completely what I had in mind at first, but I still love the result, and I love that I have my character in like real life now. and just all the accessories I made for them. The one thing that I do wish that maybe were different was that I somehow executed the eyes better, but you know, I think I did alright, and I think they look cool, don't they? The hair went a little wild from being under the hair bonnet for like a week, but yeah. Got the backpack under here. If I take it off, it's a little less bulky. Come on, you can do it. There we go. And that looks cool too. And while this is the stuff that I imagine that they mainly wear in like the summertime when it's, you know, really hot outside, I still got in this little chest that I picked up at a smoke shop, I got like all of their other clothes that came with them. So, yeah, you know, I think this is cool. I'm just, At some point, probably before I go off to college, which is, as we're recording this, like 10 days away. Actually, no, wait. Oh no, it's 8 days away. Oh boy. But, yeah, I'm probably gonna, like, do some kind of photography at some point of just, like, Iris exploring the wilderness outside my house. And you know what? Maybe even a little bit of urban exploration since, college. And, yeah, this little one definitely coming with me to my dorm. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this chaotic mess of a video. I hope you enjoyed, accompanying me while I make a bunch of tiny stuff for a tiny adventure. And, you know, I'm really happy that, you know, they're able to stand on their own. Like, I'm not even doing anything. But, yeah, I hope that you love this doll as much as I do. And I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!
As mentioned before, after recording, I modified the eyes a little since they were just too cartoonish for my liking. I messed around with wet watercolor pencils and teeny tiny brushes, and I ended up with this. I think she somehow looks 50 times cooler, yet slightly unnerving at the same time. What do you think?